The invention of the traffic light, something we hardly think about today, was a revolutionary step that changed not only how we drive, but how we live. Every corner of modern civilization relies upon it. Without the system of orderly signals governing the flow of cars, bicycles, and pedestrians, chaos would dominate our roads. This remarkable innovation, credited to Black inventor Garrett Morgan, came at a time when America was undergoing monumental changes, a surge in industrialization, mass migration to cities, and the rise of the automobile. To truly appreciate Morgan's contribution, one must trace his journey from the fields of Kentucky, where he was born, to the bustling industrial streets of Cleveland, where his genius blossomed. His story is one of persistence, courage, and vision, making him a leading figure in not only invention, but also civil history. Growing up in post-Civil War America, Garrett Morgan was born on March 4, 1877, in Paris, Kentucky, just a dozen years after the Civil War ended. His parents, Sidney Morgan and Elizabeth Reed, were children of enslaved people. Though slavery had been abolished, Morgan's early years took place in a deeply segregated America. The South at that time was defined by systemic inequality and the enforcement of Jim Crow laws. Opportunities for African Americans were severely limited, and education was often cut short. Morgan himself only attended elementary school through the 6th grade. Yet his limited formal schooling did not define his aspirations. From a young age, he exhibited a mechanical curiosity. He often dismantled toys, farm equipment, and domestic tools, trying to understand how each piece of machinery worked. Even though his family had modest means, this self-taught curiosity planted the seeds of invention in him. At the age of 14, seeking more opportunity than Kentucky could provide, Morgan left for Cincinnati, Ohio. Initially, he worked as a handyman, performing basic repairs and small jobs. It was difficult work, but he demonstrated skill and discipline, which eventually gave him the courage to seek greater prospects. From sewing machine repairman to entrepreneur, by 1895, Morgan moved again, this time to Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland was a thriving industrial hub and home to immigrants, entrepreneurs, and African Americans seeking work in the rapidly modernizing economy. Morgan secured employment repairing sewing machines, a job that required both mechanical ability and patience. He excelled in this profession and soon developed inventive improvements for the machines he serviced. By learning how mechanisms fit together and mastering the principles of mechanical operation, he became more than just a repairman. He was a problem solver. With money saved from his labor, Morgan opened his own sewing machine repair business in 1907. He later expanded the venture into a tailoring shop with his wife, Mary Ann Hasek, who helped manage the enterprise. Together they manufactured suits, coats, and other clothing, hiring dozens of employees. This tailoring business became successful enough to support his family and fund further experiments in invention. Through sewing machine mechanics, Morgan developed precision in design and problem solving that would serve him throughout his career. He was already thinking about bigger solutions to society's problems. Invention of the safety hood and gas mask before his famous traffic signal. Morgan invented a device with life-saving implications, the safety hood, an early precursor to the gas mask. Firefighters in the early 20th century often perished because they had no effective protection against smoke inhalation. Morgan recognized this danger and was determined to save lives. In 1912, he patented the safety hood and smoke protector. The device included a hood to cover the wearer's head and two tubes. One tube extended toward the ground to draw in cleaner air, while another vent allowed exhalation. The principle was simple but highly effective. Skeptics doubted whether it worked until 1916, when a disaster struck Cleveland's waterworks tunnel. An explosion underground trapped workers in a tunnel filled with smoke and toxic fumes. Without hesitation, Morgan and his brother put on the safety hoods and entered the tunnel. They rescued several men, pulling them to safety. Morgan's invention proved its value that day, saving lives and earning him local hero status. Sadly, racism prevented Morgan from receiving the full recognition he deserved. Newspapers often failed to mention his role in the rescue because he was black. In order to market his product, he sometimes hired white actors to demonstrate it for skeptical fire departments. Despite these challenges, His device was later adapted by the US military in World War I to protect soldiers against poison gas, cementing its global significance. The rise of the automobile and urban chaos. While Morgan was refining his inventions, America was experiencing a dramatic transformation. The arrival of the automobile, accelerated by Henry Ford's production of the Model T in 1908, radically altered daily life. Cars provided freedom of movement, but created chaos in urban streets. By the 1910s, cities were suffering from unprecedented traffic congestion. Streets once filled with pedestrians, wagons, and bicycles now had motorcars speeding through. Accidents became increasingly common, often fatal. In Cleveland in the 1920s, automobiles mixed dangerously with horse-drawn carts, streetcars, and people crossing the road. Some intersections installed police officers to direct traffic, while others experimented with early signals. One important milestone occurred in 1914 in Cleveland, when James Hogue installed the first electric traffic light at East 105th Street and Euclid Avenue. It consisted of two lights, red and green, connected by underground wiring. This system was operated by a police officer, but lacked the sophistication to handle complicated scenarios. The major flaw of these early systems was the abrupt shift between go and stop. Without any warning phase, collisions often happened as vehicles stuck in intersections could not clear in time. This problem inspired Garrett Morgan to innovate. The vision of a safer traffic signal in 1922, Morgan witnessed a terrible crash at a busy Cleveland intersection between a car, a truck, and a horse-drawn wagon. The disaster left people injured and property destroyed. Morgan believed that such tragedies could be prevented by a smarter signaling system. In 1923, he patented his three-position traffic signal design. Unlike existing systems, Morgan's invention introduced an intermediate position, a warning signal to give drivers time to slow down before the light switched to red. This pivotal addition paved the way for the yellow light that we see today. Morgan's invention was largely mechanical, involving a T-shaped pole with signals that could be manually operated. Nonetheless, the concept revolutionized traffic control. He eventually sold the rights to General Electric for $40,000, a significant sum at the time. General Electric refined and mass-produced the design, ensuring that Morgan's contributions spread across America and the world. The principle of a three-phase system, stop, caution, and go, remains at the heart of modern traffic lights. Broader contributions and civic leadership, Garrett Morgan's talents were not limited to invention. He also became an influential figure in Cleveland's African-American community. In 1920, he founded the Cleveland Call newspaper, later merged into the Call and Post, which became an important voice for Black Americans in the Midwest. Morgan also participated actively in civic life. He was a member of the NAACP and involved in campaigns to improve opportunities for African Americans. His success as a businessman and inventor made him a respected leader, serving as an example of resilience against systemic racial barriers. At a time when Black inventors often had their work ignored or stolen, Morgan managed to secure patents, achieve financial success, and contribute to society in ways that benefited everyone. His dual accomplishments, as both an innovator and a civic leader, distinguished him as a multifaceted historical figure. Later years and challenges. By the 1940s, Morgan's health began to deteriorate. He developed glaucoma and eventually lost most of his eyesight, likely due in part to chemical exposure during his years of experimenting with hair and mechanical products. Despite this setback, he remained active in the community and continued advocating for African American rights and recognition. He lived to see his work recognized, at least in part. In 1963, months before his passing at the age of 86, he was honored by the U.S. government for his contribution to traffic safety. Cleveland also celebrated him as one of its great citizens. On July 27, 1963, Garrett Morgan died, leaving behind a legacy of life-saving innovations that have touched billions of people across the globe. The evolution of traffic lights. After Morgan's traffic signal set the standard for a new era of urban organization. As cities modernized, his three-position design was adapted into fully electric and automated traffic lights. By the mid-20th century, the yellow light had become universally adopted, saving untold numbers of lives by reducing accidents. Today, traffic lights are computerized, coordinated and often intelligent, adjusting to flows of traffic in real time. Yet the underlying system, red to stop, green to go, and yellow to prepare, remains exactly as Morgan envisioned in 1923. Without his inventive leap, many decades of road safety might have been lost. Remembering Garrett Morgan's life embodies both the promise and the challenges of African-American innovators in the early 20th century. His contributions are often overshadowed in mainstream narratives, but his inventions continue to shape daily life. Schools, streets, and institutions bear his name, ensuring that his story is passed on. Museums such as the Smithsonian celebrate him as a pioneer, and scholars recognize how his inventions reflect both ingenuity and resilience in the face of systemic barriers. His work reminds us that innovation comes not only from celebrated industrial giants, but also from individuals who faced immense odds yet still managed to change the world. Conclusion: the next time one waits at a traffic light, red, then yellow, then green, it is worth remembering the name Garrett Augustus Morgan. His vision for safer streets became a universal standard. More than an inventor of devices, Morgan was a problem solver who transformed tragedy into innovation. He proved that brilliance can emerge from anywhere, regardless of race, background, or formal education. His life reminds us that overlooked inventors have made some of the most essential contributions to civilization. Garrett Morgan, the black inventor who created the traffic light, is one of those remarkable figures who deserves his rightful place in history.